and welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. I'm your host, Marisa B. And today I'd like to introduce dedicated mama empowerment speaker, author, and coach, founder of Connecting Mamas, a supportive community where mothers can connect, learn, and grow through the transformative power of women's circles, and the host of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. Today, I'd like to welcome Michelle DeKeyser. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Marissa. It's so exciting to be on here, and thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure when I get to work and speak with you. It's always fun.
Oh, thank you. Here too. And you're so busy, and I just love the work that you do. And I would like to say, first of all, that you also deal with mamas in a non-traditional sense, mamas that birth ideas as well. They don't necessarily have to be mamas of biological children. You also have what I learned recently, what they call bonus moms too. So can you tell us, first of all, a little bit about how you got started in all of this? Because I believe you were a teacher at first, correct?
Yes. So I my first profession was teaching, and then kids happened. And I stayed teaching in California with my oldest. And then when we moved from California to Wisconsin, then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I couldn't keep the credential. And then I did go back to teaching eventually for about, I got put in there around January, and then June came around, and I was with 2 kids in daycare, and my salary it was like almost a complete wash. And I was not, it was too much with the young kids and everything. And so I officially at that point decided to stay home. At that point, my son was, my middle daughter was, well, I didn't have a younger daughter at the moment, but she was 9 months and my son was about 3. And that's when I just officially decided I'm staying home because it was just too much between everything. And so as I stayed home, I started to, and they start to get bigger, and I started to feel a little bit lost in everything I was doing. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with myself? Am I going to go back to teaching? Am I going to do those things? And I had watched already so many teachers, some who had just started teaching already out of the profession. And I knew for me, I had no desire to go back to that. I even ended up getting my reading credential, thinking that I'd go back as a reading teacher. But I also knew that those were specialty positions, and usually you had to do your dues in the district and teach for a couple of years before you get one of those positions. So then I was just like, what do I do? COVID hits. Everyone has their COVID story, I'm sure. For me, COVID turned into homeschooling my kids for a year and doing the program called the 75 Hard. And so I started on the first day, September 1st of 2020, I started homeschooling them, and I started the 75 Hard. And I ended up doing the entire full live hard year. But it was a combination of homeschooling them and doing that I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew for me, I just felt kind of in this fog, like I was enjoying having them around, doing all these things, but I was like, what do I do? What's going to happen when eventually when they leave the house? What does that mean for me? And I was already starting to have those like purpose questions. And I think as I've been talking to more people, somewhere between 40 to 45 is where many women just get into that phase of all of a sudden, like, you get this whoosh of like, what now? And so that was my what now for me. And so I went down the route of 75 Hard. And in this program, I lost 25 pounds, or 50 pounds, sorry. But the main thing for me wasn't the losing the weight. It was the mindset shift, because you had to do the reading and you do all these other things too. So let me tell you this part of the story is, so the way the 75 Hard works is you do the first 75 days and you do everything. If you miss anything, you're supposed to start over. I was able to complete the first 75 days, and then you can go into 3 phases. So the first phase also includes 5-minute cold showers, also includes making sure you pick 3 things you want to do each day. And so those are 30-day longs. And then phase 2 just basically takes you back to what you're doing 75 Hard. But phase 3 also includes like talking to a stranger, back to the cold showers, those types of things. But you're supposed to do it 1 month before you would start 75 Hard in the beginning to take you to a full year. And so I got to day 25 of phase 3. And it's funny though, because when you're listening to podcasts, they always warn you, one of the things you have to do is just take your picture every day. And the reason why they have you take your picture is because you probably won't check your progress if it's not forced on you. So at least at some point you can see the progress because you have the records. Well, I must have fallen asleep doing my reading. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I had talked to a stranger that day. I had taken my 5-minute cold shower. I had not taken my picture. Now it's gray area. It's 2:30 in the morning. I ended up taking the picture at that point, and it's a really horrible picture, which I show when I do some coursework. Um, but then I ended up finishing out the last 5 days. So it's a gray area for what I did. But what happened in that moment was all of a sudden this realization, you keep hearing the words, it's about the journey.
Mhm.
But until you actually sink in what those words meant,
Yes.
that was the day that they sunk in for me. Because all of a sudden I was like, well, okay, yes, I made this landmark of completing this year, but what did that actually mean for me? I mean, yes, I lost the weight, but it was really the mental shift, the change in direction of what I want to do and finding purpose that was it. And so whether I officially made the goal of the live hard year or whatever it was, didn't matter anymore. Because I finally had that realization of what it means that it's about the journey. And so I think as we remind ourselves more and more of that and going, it's not necessarily the end result all the time, but it's, am I enjoying the journey as I'm going? Because if I wasn't enjoying or learning from that experience, it's just, we go into that push, push, push. And with that masculine energy when we go into those goals. And so it's combine that when we think about the journey, it's like combine the masculine with that feminine of like really nurturing each other and seeing that journey and what I'm going through. And I always, I put in my head, so Jamie Kern Lima is one of my heroes, and Phil, and then her book, as well as Phil Knight, they do something very well that from the eyes of what we consider successful. They've got the money, the family, all the things that you would, I mean, he's a creator of Nike, you know, he created that from ground under. They both say now that they're in that stage that the best time of their lives were being in the midst of creating this business. But they look back and go, they wish, the one wish they had was that they enjoyed it a little bit more. And so it's something to remind ourselves about the journey and really what it's about. And it's so hard to do when we're in the midst of it. But that's kind of what also now leads me to my new direction of the Mama Genius Hub is at this moment where it's at is really collecting the mom speakers who speak to mom, who are in this middle, messy middle, we want to call it, right? But how we can come together to create a system and a platform for moms who are in their beginning stages of maybe hitting their 40s and realizing, I want more, but I have no idea what that means. And I don't have time to even deal with that. I want to be able to create this space and community, the Mama Genius Hub, which is their one-stop shop to find their genius and inspire their kids. And so I'm in the beginning stages of creating this. So right now, for me, it's the Mama Genius Festival, bringing in the speakers and creating that platform. And now we're working on to now create what I was calling an app for a long time, but it will be on the Be Connected platform of creating the entry-level point for moms and creating this idea of a 15-minute space of where they can grow and develop in small chunks and really designing that for them. So that then when they are ready to say, I need this or I want this, they have that space to do it. And because as a busy mom, when I realized when I first started doing this, like all the things required for 75 hard were like a lot. And I went all in. It was the first time I've all went in. I've tried many different programs and got a day or two. And so that was the one that worked for me. And other people might do other programs or whatever. But for me, that really just was the one that I stuck with. And I'll admit, I haven't gone back to it. I haven't done another one. I'm actually working, possibly doing one for mom's 45-day challenge. But all of that is finding what is going to work for you. And so, especially with mompreneurs who are in the midst of the middle of their journey, and you know this, Marissa, is we have all the noise around us. We've taken all these business classes, we've taken all these entrepreneur classes, we've got the coaching classes, we've got all this, and we have all the tools really at our disposal at this point. But now is the scary part. Now is the actual implementation time. And then the question is, what do I implement? This worked for this person, this worked for this person, and how do I rectify what's actually going to work for me? And so that's where I want to come in for these mompreneurs, is to help weed out that noise of like, we have these different tools, but now you need to align that with your body, what actually feels right for you, because I'm just in awe of all these mompreneurs and anyone who wants to get their message out there because they've entered the arena. as Brene Brown puts it. They're no longer
Mhm.
standing on the sidelines. They're putting their vulnerability, they're putting themselves out there for the ridicule, for
Right.
the scary, walking through the fear of all of it. And I want to create that supportive environment that fosters them not to give up. Because as soon as you hit that arena, game on, and it's
Mhm.
scary. And if you don't have the support to fall back onto, that's when a lot of people give up. Even if they've done all the coursework, they've done all the things, but now it's like, okay, I've learned all this stuff. Now I need to actually implement it. And that's the scary part. And that's where
And
I
the
come in.
support, the
Yes.
support though, the support is so important. I mean, two things that um I really like about what you're doing is, first of all, you truly are a connector because you connect mamas of all types, all ages, all sizes, all walks of life, all areas of the planet. And you also have support through the women's circle, through your podcasts, through the festivals that you do. Um, you give a platform to everyone that wants it. As you said, if they want to now jump into the arena because they have something to say, and it is fearful. I believe it's fearful for them. Um, they know that what they have to say is important, but I think that with that comes a host of issues, um, many external from outside and quite a number from inside. That's why you
Yes.
have therapists that work with therapists and coaches that work with coaches, because everybody needs support. Everybody needs that um, that structure to move forward, um, a sounding board. And I I know that you are putting all of this together in a grand way for everyone. Can you explain first of all a little bit about the podcast, because you started that first? You've had that for a couple of years now, correct?
Actually, no, it hasn't been that long. It's actually
Oh.
since last November, which is a funny story because for over a year, I was trying to do a blog. And I hired someone with SEO, and in a nutshell, he was giving me the formula of how to do 50 blogs in 3 months to create. And for some reason, even though I love writing, even though I want to, like, I was so fearful of my perfectionism that getting even one blog out in a year was like in this format. Like I had run a blog before and was getting them out, it was different. But to try to actually put the pressure on and say it needs to be in this format. And so, of course, what I did for me is put myself in a deadline. So I picked November 12th of 2023 to launch my blog. And I was like, well, if I give a deadline. And so I actually hadn't talked to the person I hired in quite a while. And I just had a couple questions. And I was just actually ended up being, he's in Australia, and it ended up being my birthday. And so October 25th, I get on a call with him thinking, oh, I just need a couple questions answered. And then I'll be ready to get everything finished up. I was taking these interviews, taking the transcripts, running them through ChatGPT, rewriting them, trying to create these blogs, right, in this format that he had given me. And I just got so stuck, and I get off the phone with him, and I'm in complete, like, it's 5:30 in the morning. It's my birthday, and I'm just in tears. So it's like, none of my answers, like, I just felt like I had nowhere to go. And I was like, I'd already started broadcasting that this launch was happening. It's the 25th. The launch date was November 12th. I mean, we're talking 2.5 weeks. And I was just sitting there going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I sat there long enough that all of a sudden I was just like, why am I trying to do a blog? Like I said, I had interviewed all these people, and I was trying to take the transcripts and turn them into something, and I was still going to post the videos and everything. I was like, why am I not putting this onto a podcast? And again, as I sat there with asking myself this, like, you could just feel the fear inside of me going, like, all of a sudden this feels bigger than a blog for me at this moment. Like, to put a podcast out there felt bigger, like you're actually putting your voice out there, and it was in a different way than what I was thinking. And I had no idea how to upload a podcast. I had at that moment no clue to any of that. But so from the 25th to the 12th, so that 2.5 week span, I learned how to get this uploaded. I got a podcast launch. And so on the 12th, I still had a launch party. About 30 people came and went through all of this. I had 4 episodes loaded, and I was able to release an episode each day that week.
Mhm.
And so by the end of the launch, I had 10 episodes loaded. I was still interviewing them separately on YouTube, each for 3 days straight, interviewing each of the first 12 people, had that all set up. I had a women's circle that ended it. But again, this was like in 2 weeks, I decided. So ironically, I kept releasing. After that, I started releasing about 3 episodes a week. And so when I got to March, where I was just all of a sudden I felt like I need a break. I've just been producing it and wanted to like go back and go through some of the stuff. I decided to do that and I realized it was episode 50 that I decided I was
Wow.
ready for a pause. Not in 3 months did I have 50 episodes, but in 4 months I had 50 podcast episodes versus trying for over a year to do one blog.
Right.
And so it was again finally honing in and just sitting with it and figuring out what do I need to do to get my message out. And
Mhm.
so from there, I went from the podcast to keep producing that. And then that's when the festival came into place, like as soon as I took that break, because that was March. And then that's when Elizabeth Ocean had her festival. I was like, I need to do this. And then it's been but it was that decision of finally listening to how am I going to get my message out? And so I
Right.
think it comes down to a lot of times is it's so hard, like you were saying, why we need coaches as a coach, because we can't get in our own heads. It's the same thing when you're proofreading your own paper, your brain just sees it
Mhm.
differently because it's yours. And so we each need that outside perspective, but we need the outside perspective that works for us. Not
Right.
someone who's going to be judgmental and give you the advice, but someone's going to hold space for you to help you figure out what is inside and
Mhm.
to take the blocks away so that you're aligning with what works for you, not what works for me. So like
Right.
you might be a blogger and that's great. I just
Right.
wasn't.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's figuring out those differences, what works for you.
Mhm.
Because there are wonderful bloggers out there making so successful. It
Yes.
just, for some reason, for me, I was fighting the podcast, but the
Mhm.
blog wasn't right for me. And so it's that push and realizing, seeing that from the outside, and we can't always see that ourselves. And so that's where the community and those things come
Mhm.
into place, is to help weed out, are you a blogger? Are you a podcaster?
Right.
Whatever it is for you, YouTube station, whatever works for you. But it's you
Mhm.
have all these ideas from all these other creators, and yes, those things work
Mhm.
for them. Podcast is working for me, but that might not be your avenue. And so it's figuring out from the information you're gathering
Mhm.
what sits right with your messaging, with your soul, to really bring that out to the world.
I want, I, well, I have to agree that it has to be what works for us. And as a therapist, I never tell anybody what to do. I'm really the sounding board. They're discussing with me how they feel and what they want and their dreams and their hopes and their their movement forward. And I'm really just there to listen and to possibly provide tools for them to implement, but that's about it. But still, you need that. You need
Yes.
that assistance, you need that, and you need a community as well. That's why I like the women's circle that you do. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because I actually was thrilled to be involved with some of your circles, and I know that you're starting them on a more regular basis, correct? That and so tell me a little bit about that, because I do love the way you do that. It's a supportive environment, and not it's not a long thing. I mean, we're not taking hours from our day, because as busy moms, as busy employees, because there are many that are working for other people. They're not necessarily mompreneurs, but they could be corporate executives that have to work. But you're not taking the entire day. Can you explain a little bit about it? Because it is really wonderful part of a day that we can get in on.
Yeah, and I generally try to run them around to 1 hour, maybe an hour. I mean, an hour and a half most at most, depending on how many people are there. And if need be, we go into breakout rooms to break up the share so people still get the same amount of time. But it's truly it's what it is about women's circles. It's the structure. It's the way that you've set up the conversation. And so me, as I'm not leading a women's circle, I'm facilitating it. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
providing the prompts, I'm providing the principles, doing that for everyone, but I'm also participating. I'm every person who's in there is a leader when it's their turn. And the beauty of women's circles is that silence is much welcome as voices. Because
Yes.
there's some days where we just need to listen to what other people are going through, and we are not ready to share or don't need to share that day.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it's providing the principles and the guidelines to sit. And so for me, in a Zoom room, it's actually putting us in a circle and seeing that structure and feeling. And what I like to say is we stitch in together. We create a stitch of energy between us to really hone in, say, we're here for this time. We're going to focus as much. I mean, distractions may or may not happen, but we try our best to have it. We use a candle to integrate that energy together. And it's really about intention. It's about coming together to collectively get away from what we're thinking in our head to really learn what's in our heart. Because when it's in the structure and the nature of how we set it up, all of a sudden when you are given the opportunity, if you want to talk, you choose to talk or not. And many times we're just like, I didn't even know that was inside of me. And that's what this is about, is creating that structure, that community where you can learn from here. And you also learn to witness others, because you're not allowed to respond to someone else in the group during circle time.
Right.
And listening really is a skill. And it's really learning that, no, I need to close my mouth. Like, I can't respond to them. I can take it in. I can witness for them and realize if by them saying this out loud, they now have an idea of what they want to do next. And it also, then we can take that to our kids, to our families. And when we're talking to our kids and they're done talking, giving them that silence or that space to continue the conversation, or simply retell what they said, rather than giving them your 2 cents. Because 90% of the time, your kids don't need your 2 cents. There is the 10% that they do, and they want your advice. But honestly, the more that you coach them and how to figure it out for themselves, then they're self-sufficient. And yes, there are times that they'll call you even as old adults and they want your advice. And there are times for that. But 90% of the time, they also just need someone to witness and listen to them. And so Women's Circle really provides that space to learn how to do it, but also to do that for yourself and be in a safe environment. And so what I'm running right now is more geared towards mompreneur speakers, as we're in the arena of honing in what is our messaging that we want. How do we get that out? And so that's the part where I say, where we're trying to eliminate those blocks. So right now I have the course structured as Women's Circle is one day, and then implementation the next, like it's 2 separate days. So that the Women's Circle part is really where we do the work together of releasing from ourselves. Because it's easy to just go in and say, yeah, I'm going to go do these videos and I'm going to go do all this stuff. But if you're not releasing, what is the message I want out there? What is it that's holding me back from saying it the way I want? Why am I feeling this way when I'm nervous? And really just releasing some of that stuff. So that's like kind of a Friday activity, like to end the week with. You have your weekend to kind of like release out. And then Monday, we go into the implementation time. And then we go into actually creating what I'm calling the Mama Genius Hub. So the goal is by September to relaunch the Mama Genius Festival with this new platform for all moms, so that these moms can now go onto this new platform. It's going to be divided into different groups. And so there is a free version of the group as well, because I know, Marissa, we're talking about this. So I called it as a reactive and a proactive side. The reactive is going to be more reconnect with yourself. And so each of these speakers are going to be creating 1 to 5 minute videos in there that kind of gives a specialty. So if they have breathwork specialty, if they have meditation specialty, something that helps a mom. Basically, when the kids drive you insane and you need to close that bathroom door, but you literally only have 1 to 5 minutes, you have a go-to button to just get back into your body so that you can go respond to them. Because yes, we are the adults and it doesn't always happen. But if we have the tools, then we can start to do that more often, and then teach our kids how to take our time, get centered again, and then go have the conversation rather than the yelling continuing. So that would be part of the group, then kind of explaining what my genius categories are, and all of that would be part of it, as well as success stories of what moms and speakers are going through. But then we go into the proactive side, again, structuring it for moms, because it's going to be in 15-minute increments. And not 15 minutes of watching a video. We're talking 1 to 5 minute videos with implementation time. So you are done with one task in 15 minutes. So this is on mom time. And so that will, but that will be based on your needs. Like it's self-sufficient to like, do I need help with connecting with my kids? And based on whatever speakers and their specialties are, and that's where it'll start and it'll keep growing. But it will be broken down so that you can get that, start going down that path. And then if there is a speaker in there that you know, like, and trust, and you would like to go to their bigger program, that's an offering. You never have to. You can always find what you need within the membership. But it's all about connecting moms to that starting point, because there's a lot of moms that know that they need something, but they're too busy. They don't necessarily want to, but and they see this offer of like this big class from someone, like, I have no idea what that
Yes.
entails. I don't have the
Yeah.
time or
Yeah.
space for it. So this is that entry point to like, I want something more, but I don't know what it is. Where do I
Hmm.
start? This is your starting point.
Right. Right. Because I think it's fearful, right? I mean, you're a mom, you're busy, you're fearful to dive into something else that may take away from your time of being a mom. And of course, you have other responsibilities, whether you work, whether you're running your own business. I mean, there are other responsibilities to your partner, to your home. So it is frightening. These big, massive um, courses and classes that it's frightening. And some of them
And you,
already feel isolated because they're doing the mom thing and they're running around doing that and they feel isolated from others, say, out in the world. And so it's fearful to jump into something so tremendous. That's why I love the circle. I mean, you can come to the circle just to come to the circle and be in a women's circle and not move forward ever or for a while, right? Because everybody moves differently through their journey.
I mean, essentially, it comes down to two things. It's for women, which I've noticed just from working with, like we said, that age range of 40 to 45, where all of a sudden it's. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it. I don't want to call it the midlife crisis because that's just ridiculous. But it's this yearning for something more. And maybe not everyone has it, but that's what I've been experiencing as I talk to more and more people is around this range. All of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I did all the things. I checked off the things that I wanted to, like, I got the university, I got the marriage, I got the job. And then all of a sudden you're like in this range of like, now what? And it's like, you can keep suppressing it, but I always use the example of like, be washing dishes and all of a sudden you just start crying and you don't even know why. And you're just like, is this it? And it's when you're in that stage of not having any idea what you want at all. And just knowing that you want something more, but then you feel guilty about like, well, is that going to take away from my kids? Is that your kids need an example of a happy, healthy adult.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they start to see that, that's what starts to shift. That's why I'm saying for moms, it's really about finding what they like to do and what they're good at. And I completely understand that in the midst of motherhood, you've probably forgot all that, or what you even did liking to do before kids is not like there's two different things right now. So, but you have to bring those together at some point. Figure out, what do I like doing now? What am I good at? What is going to bring me fulfillment so that I'm not feeling like the now what anymore? And that's where it comes into be, is like, what is this now what? And I can keep trying to hide it. I can, because I've even now, like sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what I want to do. And it's like, but it's that perpetual of keep asking yourself and moving forward. And so I wanted to give moms an opportunity to do that in a succinct way that made it accessible at this point, because if you've never done this before, it could be too much. It's like it's kind of like, do I go in the shallow end or do I just jump off the deep end?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to give that entry point of, I want more, but I have no idea what that means or what. And so this is that explorations part of just me asking, what do I want besides everyone around me? And no, it is not selfish.
Right.
And it is now time to ask your question. What do I enjoy doing right now in this stage? And it may be some of the things you like doing, but maybe you don't like any of those things anymore pre-kids. Like, I mean, some people must like to go clubbing or something, but they have no desire to do that anymore. So it's rectifying who you are now with what you like to do for you. And that is, as a mom in that nurture space of you doing stuff for everyone else, is the hardest question to answer,
Mm-hmm.
and feels like the most selfish, mean question to
The
answer and say,
guilt,
oh, well,
right? Guilt.
yes.
Guilt. I often wonder,
And just,
well, well, I know that society to a certain extent has something to do with that. Um, but I often wonder, how does that occur? That many men, not just moms, but women in general, have a lot of guilt behind saying to themselves, what do I want? That's
I think part of that comes down to the masculine energy that we've put ourselves in, and we've separated ourselves from each other as women. Like, we're more pinned up against each other, from like a corporate perspective or anything, like there's only so many seats at the table. And so we've lost that community feeling as women, that that the women's circle and those concepts of bringing back that feminine, and not that masculine's bad, but we need more of a rhythm between the two, and saying it's not always about achievement, but that's what I know, that's how I felt. And so I think it's when we start to marry the two together, and it's not saying that it's masculine's all bad, but it's saying that we've lost a lot of the feminine, and to try to bring it back in with the masculine of how we feel as women, and to bring back again that community, because as women, we were gatherers together. Our
Right,
roots
exactly.
are in gathering, nurturing together, not by ourselves.
Right.
We have isolated ourselves,
Mhm.
and that's where the disconnect has come in. And now we're thinking, well, now we just need to achieve, 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 because we've lost that disconnect of community, and we've pinned ourselves against each other, saying, oh, well, if we achieve, women at the top look a certain way, and I don't want to be that.
Mhm.
And so, but there needs to be a merriment in between that, that when we come together as women and we support each other, that we all rise
Mhm.
in that feminine energy. And I mean, we still need the masculine for the goals and all those things, but we don't need all masculine, and we don't need all men to be in charge. Like there needs to be some of that. I mean, we go back to the olden times, and we had a lot of women at higher positions and things like that. We've lost some of that along the way, in terms of even our history of even acknowledging that.
Right.
And so it's time to really say, like it can't just be all men in charge, all men. And
Right.
it's not that men are bad. It's that we as women just need to come into our own power
Mhm.
of whatever that means for each woman.
Right.
And
Right.
and there's no pressure on it, but it's
No.
just acknowledge, what does it do that I want,
Mhm.
and knowing that a desire should just be acknowledged, whether it happens or not. But if we keep suppressing our desires,
Mhm.
that's when we start to feel the pain of it all. And and just acknowledge desire doesn't mean that it comes into place, but that we give it space to see where it goes or which way. And it's just the idea of not suppressing it anymore, and
Mhm.
deciding, like making a list. What are the things I desire? What does that list look like to me?
And not
And
comparing
each,
to others, because achievements, right? Achievements and goals are different for everyone. There's no one achievement or goal that's any better than the other. It's really personal. And I think that a
and I
lot of
mean, a
women
desire could
have
be
a hard
have a
time
better
with that.
relationship with, right. A desire could be to have a better relationship with one of your kids versus like making $10,000. Like
Right.
each person's desires can be completely different. It's a matter of for your system, your body, identifying what are the things I desire, not what society tells me I should desire,
Right.
but really truly honing in and listening to the things that are coming from your own soul, your own heart, of your own desires. And that's the hardest part. That's why I feel that women's circles and all those natures of the
Mhm.
community, of seeing other people, witnessing other people acknowledging their desires, witnessing other people acknowledging the things that are happening in their life,
Mhm.
makes you open to all of a sudden, oh, what's actually in my heart. And I think
Right.
that's what we've been missing, is those real conversations. I mean, the biggest conversation is, hi, how are you doing? I'm fine. How's your day? I'm busy doing blah, blah, blah. And that's the end
Mhm.
of our conversations. The kids are doing this, the kids are doing that. We have this schedule, we're doing this. And those have
Right.
been our conversations with each other. That's where our souls are craving that that true connection with each other, of depth, not of here's my schedule, what's your schedule, let's see if we can have a play date together, kind of
I know,
thing.
isn't
But
it terrible? That's where we've come. Yeah.
but when we start talking about the depths of what our actual desires are, and realizing that we're not crazy, and that we all have different desires, and it's worth
Mhm.
acknowledging them, that's when the conversation changes, and we realize, oh, it's not so bad. We're not alone in this. We're actually together in this, and we can actually support each other in this as well. And then it really comes down to support, because I'm sure everyone has the mean girl experience. Everyone has the backstabbing experience, but not all women relationships need to be that way.
No, more or less, we're holding a space for each other, space to really be who and what we want to be, which I think a lot of women haven't had that for a long time. But I do want to talk quickly about the book because you did write in a collaborative book. Can you just explain a little bit about it? Can you give us the title? It was more than one book, right? You wrote two.
So there's two books. And so the Voices of Women 2023 is the first book and one of the first big summits that I had done. And my daughter was 10 at the time, and she spoke in it as well. And so we each have a chapter in
Oh,
there. So it was
lovely.
just really an honor to like see her come into her light. And it's funny because she's a pretty natural speaker, but she didn't like doing it. She got invited to a couple other summits afterwards, and she said no. I said, that's fine. But that day I was like pushing, like, you've already committed to this, you need to finish out your commitments. And then my whole thing with parenting is finish your commitments, and then after that point, if you never want to do it again, that's fine.
Right.
And so she had a couple offers and she said no. I'm like, okay. Whereas my son was angry because he couldn't be in that summit because it was Voices of Women. He's not a girl, so he could not. And so when the Family Matters Summit came out and they were creating the parenting's owners manuals from that summit, he's like, I want in. I want to be part of that. And so he jumped in. So him and I are both in that book as well. So it's been an honor to like really see my kids shine a bit too and have their voices in these books as well. So I'm published with each of them, which is such a blessing just to see them growing. But my son has really taken off from that point, and really he saw the Mama Genius Festival. He's like, I want to run my own summit. And even right now, currently, we are him and I are leaving in 13 days to Tanzania.
Yes, I was going to ask you because can you tell a little bit about that? That's a project that you're involved
Yeah,
with, you and your son.
I'll go into that as I finish the story. But so like even right now, he's creating videos every day. He went and interviewed each of the volunteers, and he's creating videos every day. And he took when I did my first podcasting course that I didn't have as many people in there. He came and watched it, and all of a sudden he gets off the next day. He's like, I want to create my own podcast. So he's created like an episode, and again, it's in and out of what they want to do, and just inviting them to be part of it. And he does have an idea for the podcast and really does want to roll it out. But then, so Tanzania came into play, which is run by Jackie Bailey, is actually his speaking coach. And so he joined her Speak a Boom class. And so it was getting that connection. And then she brought this project to the Family Circle group of saying that she wanted to take a group of entrepreneurs to Tanzania to work with the Ngozi Women's Foundation down there. And they work with, it was 8 schools and now it might be 12 schools, but they work with a lot of middle school girls and stuff. And they're really, their big mission is really educating the girls in how their body works, and really getting the girls to understand how to use reusable pads and getting the means to do it, because a lot of girls are missing school because of it. So that's one of their main missions. But obviously my son, they're also wanting us to do other foundations. So we're actually just talking about on a meeting today of what exactly is Liam going to be doing while he's down there. But she wants him to be that liaison, and even showing them how he does his talks and doing some of those techniques because we'll be working with all of them. But so it's really just to give him also the experience of being in a different country and being able to help with the programming. And so it really came down, there's 8 of us going now, and they're going to create a documentary of it. And we're actually doing a summit. And we're doing a summit next week for it to promote and get more fundraising for it. So that's been today's actually last day for speakers as we record this. But it's really just putting all these pieces together and seeing how from dream to fruition, how things happen. Because this is ground zero for the trip. This is the first time this trip has ever happened. They want to make an annual thing. So this is like us doing that group. Honestly, we were on a 2-week road trip in the middle of Arches when they're buying airplane tickets finally. And it was like, we didn't even know if we were going. And so then we kind of like finally had to make the finalized decision. Are we going to be able to cover the rest of the costs? We didn't have all the plane tickets already fundraised for, and all of those pieces coming together to make this trip happen. And it's been all kind of last minute, but very excited. I'm like, we leave on the 23rd. So today's July 10th as we're recording. And we leave in 13 days from now, but I'm just excited to, actually my head's spinning right now because I've been taking the typhoid
yes,
pills
to get ready.
to get ready. So doing all the things. But I was
Mhm.
like, I'm coming on here to speak with Marissa because I took some Tylenol right before I got on, and it's been doing fine. Because I think when you get into your element and into your genius of what you're good at,
Mhm.
a lot of that stuff goes away. But that's what prevents us sometimes from doing it, because it could have been easy going, Marissa, I'm just not feeling well right now. I'm not going to
Right.
do it. Those are choices. Those are easy. And sometimes we do need to make that decision. Sometimes
Mhm.
we do need to listen to our body and do those
Mhm.
things. But it's knowing what's actually getting in the way, and making
Mhm.
those calls for yourself and really listening to your intuition. I was like, I know as soon as I get on there, I'll be fine. And just knowing those things about yourself. But the more you do it, the more you know. And
Yes.
so having support of community to figure those things out. And so nervous about actually taking my son to Tanzania, but I know this will be a good thing for us, and
Mhm.
pushing him forward in what he wants to do as well. I mean, he wants to be a speaker, he wants to do these
Mhm.
things. And so just giving him the opportunities. And I knew right away when she brought the project that it was just him and I this time. Like I wasn't going to invite the
Right.
girls yet, wasn't ready to have the whole family or anything like
Mhm.
that go. It was just like, I knew I listening to my intuition
Mhm.
is it's just the two of us. If we're going, we're going to see what this is like, and just help get this program into place, regardless if we go again. But we
Mhm.
want to help set this up, and get those things. And that's what it really comes down to, is learning how to do those things and listen to your intuition,
Mhm.
which can be hard and scary. But the more you start to do it, then the more you can trust it. But that's where the community comes into place, to
Mhm.
start to have that starting point.
So now let me ask you, first of all, where can people see your podcast? That's the first thing. So, for example, they want to see a podcast because it's a weekly podcast, correct? You're doing a
Correct.
weekly. So where can they see that? Is there a YouTube
They
channel? Do you
where
have a group?
it's Yeah, it's on YouTube. I mean, basically wherever you like to listen to, if you like Apple or if you like Spotify,
So you have an
Google has now turned into YouTube. So if you go to any of those platforms or you listen to your
right.
podcast, you can just subscribe to the Mama Genius Hub. If you go to YouTube, I do have it under at Connecting
Mhm.
Mamas, is the link, and we can put all the links for
Well, I'm gonna
and
put
then
all this in the yes, because I'd like to put the books
by
too,
the
like a
time this
link for
is
the books.
connectingmamas.com is my website. I will admit, right
Mhm.
now it's long story, but it's being fixed right now. It's
Mhm.
and it will all be there very shortly in the next week or two. So
Mhm. Oh, I
connectingmamas.com
know
is
the
place.
feel. I I know the feeling well. I just migrated mine over, and I'm proud of myself because I am not technically savvy, and I did it. I'm in shock that I did it, but I put myself to the task and I got it done. And it was a big one, but I know of where you speak.
So it's in the works right now, but everything will be there. And what I do want to invite everyone, those of you out there that want to is what is your Mama Genius? So I have the Mama Genius quiz. So that's
Yes, absolutely.
mamageniushub.com.
I'm going to put
And just
that
go check
also
out
in there.
what kind of genius you are, because you are a genius, each and every one of you. Sometimes it's just weeding out the noise to what is
Yes.
inside of me, because each of you are so special, and each of you have these gifts inside of you. I know as women, it's just hard to say, I actually see that, but I know
Mhm.
Marissa and I see that in you, and we want to help you see you are worthy. But sometimes we just need that outside perspective to see it ourselves.
Yes.
And
And the support
this helps
and the
you kind of,
continued
right.
support, right? Because there are times where we slide back to the old patterns, the old thoughts, the sometimes negative programming. And that's really where the support comes in. And I want to make sure that I also put down for the women's circle and your groups as well. I'd like to put all of that in the description. Everyone will find all of the links in the description because I think it's important to have those sort resources for everyone out there, just to even test the
I agree.
waters.
And that's what it is. I love how you just said test the waters, because one group might work for you and not for another person. And sometimes it's also just seeing a group and then going, oh, well, that would work for this person. That doesn't work for me. And it's okay if something doesn't work for you. Not this might not be for you. That is okay. But you don't know until you try.
That's right.
And then you make the decision. And so it's good to just test if something feels called to you, to go
Mhm.
check it out and
Yes.
then make a decision. Like, just start to listen. That starts to hone in your intuition. Is the more you have those impulses, like, this feels right to me, to at least check it out. And then I get there and it's not the right group for me. That's okay. But don't stop yourself from checking out another group till you find, just the same thing when you're finding a therapist, when you're finding anything. It's
Yes.
don't stop yourself from checking it out till you find the right fit for you.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that's why I want to create the Mama Genius Hub, was to give moms a chance to see different speakers and get different perspectives
Mhm.
and to get different ideas. So it was a safe, easy way to see what might work for you in a different way than just trying people's different programs, but to just get a little taste of someone and say, yeah, I want more of them. I can go check out their website now. I can go check out their stuff. Or I got enough on that one. I'm ready to move on to a new concept.
Mhm.
And then you have new concepts to work on. And so that's that's why I want to kind of create the one-stop shop for all moms
Yes.
in an easy
Now, let
way.
me ask you about that because you did do an event, which was an absolutely fabulous event. I mean, I told you, you didn't miss a beat. I mean, everything that you provided was fantastic. Is that still running in a group?
So in my Facebook group, all the videos and stuff are still in there, and the dates, and we're going to start on this. I think it's September 22nd. The fall equinox is when the next
Right.
festival's planned to start, and we'll be launching the Mama Genius Inspire Hub through Be Connected on there as well. And so, but right now, if you just go into my Facebook group, become a member,
That's what I'd
Marissa's
like
talk
to.
is in there.
Yes.
All of them are, there's the guide section in Facebook. And so if you can go see, again, for me, Genius is an acronym. So G is guiding kids genius, E is empowering his mom's purpose, N navigating motherhood, I igniting connection, U unleashing self-care, and S is success stories. So you can see the vessel broken down by those categories. So again, what I suggest is there were over 80 speakers, including new speakers, including my
Yes.
son in here as well. And people hear them, they're like, well, it was too much for me. That's okay. Because what it really is if you find one or two talks in that list that spoke to you, that is enough.
Right.
But again, my goal is to serve all moms. And to serve all moms, you need the variety. But you as a mom, you as a participant, the job is to start guiding by your intuition and just looking through the list and going, that one sounds good to me today. I'm going to listen to that one. And that's what we need to start doing more of rather than getting overwhelmed by all the stuff around us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do that because my husband's like, well, why would anyone want to even why would someone want shorter when they can go watch an hour-long podcast for free on YouTube and pay for your membership, which isn't going to be very much anyways. But my point is putting everything into one spot so that it's easy to find, easy to get to, easy to then, now that I have these categories, these ideas, I want to work on my relationship with my kids. I'm going to go into the G of guiding kids genius, and I'm going to go through those speakers and say, that's what I need today. And so it's to help you guide as a participant to ask yourself, what do I need to figure out what my desires are and what I want to put out to this world? Because essentially, as women, we are in that power of being able to get our messages out there, get things out there. And by a message, it simply could be that I created a new group for the women in my community. It doesn't have to be this big grand, I'm creating a podcast.
Or tell
I'm
your
creating
story,
this.
right? Tell your story. Right. Not everybody is doing the same thing. That's what I liked. I
It
mean,
doesn't have
I
to be this
listened.
big grand thing.
No, I listened to a lot of people, and those that I didn't listen to, when I got a moment, I listened to them while I was on the exercise bike because I wanted to hear what they
Right.
had to say. Because you know what? Everybody does have a story. Everybody does have something to say, and it's all important. And so I love the platform. That's why I asked, because I will put the Facebook group listing also in the description that people feel free. It's free. You're going to jump in and then you listen to what you want to listen to when you want to listen to it. Right. I mean, that's just how it is. It's there. It's provided to you to listen to completely free.
Yeah, that's what I loved about this format of the festival, is that it is sort of an evergreen summit, which usually summits are like, well, let me pay for the VIP package. Let me do this. No, I just wanted to provide a space for the speakers and a space for moms to be able to get what they need. And again, though, it is really asking yourself as a mom, what do I desire? What am I yearning to get out? Because if you're feeling that yearning, that's where the disconnect comes in, and it's hard to rectify it if you don't answer the question. That's where the depression comes in, or the things of where you feel lost or you feel disconnected from the people around you, because you can be surrounded by people. And that's how I felt, as I was surrounded by people, but I was having these conversations where everyone was complaining. I was having these conversations where no one was really saying more than what the activities were doing. I wasn't meeting that yearning inside of me to have a true connection at all, for me at least. And that could be different for other people. They may have
Right.
great friendships and not need anything else. And great if that's the case. But if that is not the case, I want to provide something that helped
Yes.
foster that desire and that yearning for something more than just the superficial connections that I was feeling. And that's where this stemmed from. It was trying to create something more to have, as even Marissa are having these deeper conversations in this podcast right now, because when we don't start to have those, that's when we just start to revert back to, hi, how are you doing? I'm fine. And if you really don't want to hear anything other than I'm fine because you don't really mean it,
Right.
and if you start to say it, but I want to be in a space where I can say, this is how I'm feeling right now. I feel down today. And it's not complaining. It's not
No,
saying
and we
like,
have a right to have those feelings, right? We have a right to have those
right.
feelings. Oftentimes, I think, especially as women, we feel like we don't have a right to have those feelings, and we certainly don't have a right to speak about them.
But it's learning the difference between complaining about something and expressing how you feel. And there is a huge difference between the two. Because usually when you're complaining, it's about someone else or something else happening to you. But when you acknowledge why you're feeling or what you're feeling, you might not even know why yet, but just, I'm feeling this way. When we put the I on and saying you, we take the you away and we focus only on how that's where women's circle, that's where those ideas come into place. And that's how we start to identify it. So there's a huge difference by acknowledging your feelings versus complaining. But I felt like I was just in the mom complaint fest, and I was tired of it. I don't care what every other kid's doing. And I just wanted to have deeper, more meaningful conversations about our passions, about the things we want to do, about all of that. And I was missing that.
Well, Michelle, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I know you're so busy. I mean, three kids, and are they still being homeschooled, or are they back
No,
into?
I only homeschooled for the 1 year, and then I went full into doing the entrepreneur route. Long story on that one, which I'll tell another day.
Yes.
But they are all home right now. Actually, they have not come in to
Right,
interrupt
for the
us.
summer.
My
And I know you're
youngest is
so
actually
busy.
my youngest is actually in the basement right now. She's been organizing our art side. And she's been
Oh,
doing a
lovely.
phenomenal job. And then my middle daughter, I just got back from the doctor's office with her. She had to do a yearly physical. She was very upset at me, but she actually didn't complain as much as she normally does. So I'll take it. And I think my son is actually making lunch for all of us right now.
Oh, how lovely.
And he was working on his Tanzania videos earlier. So it's nice seeing them. I really think when we start honing in on their genius, the things they're good at, and just supporting them and what they want, because I will tell you, I was struggling with Liam for a really long time. I was focused on the fact that for me, I felt like he needed friends. Like, and to this day, I don't know if he's ever had anyone that he would call a true friend. I don't know for me, but he was content with where he's at. And so once I started focusing on the fact that he liked cooking, gardening, speaking, and we start having those conversations, our dynamic completely changed. The yelling ceased.
It's all about them, right? They're not going to
so
be who and what we want them to be. They are
exactly
themselves. Yes.
And so when we start really focusing on that, but again, these are all learned things that that might not be innate to us, or might need to unlearn some of the things we've just naturally learned from our parents. And that's where all of this comes into play. It's not good or bad. It's deciding what kind of relationships and what we want, again, back to our desires, and then honing in what speakers or what's going to help us get there. But we have to identify it first.
Yes. And I do want to say, I know that you're going to be going in a few days, and this is a recording and it doesn't come out until the fall, but I like to invite people. I do have Facebook groups, and I do all of the promos ahead of time. So there will be information in there ahead of time on the Women's Circle and on your trip. And I'd like to foster that conversation in the group as well, as I'd like people to see that, because the group is more than just, I run a weekly program and I have people speaking about who and what they are and what they do in the world. It's also that interconnectedness. So I will be doing all of that as well. And how long will you be gone?
We'll be gone it'll be 18 days in the ground.
Okay.
So we'll just have to do a follow-up interview in your Facebook group telling how it went.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That'd be fabulous. Yes. Yes. And I definitely will keep everything in there so people see it. so that they know what's going on prior to you actually coming out to speak in the fall.
Yeah, and it's just exciting to just be part of something and to like actually I love traveling abroad and I see the vision of just even just traveling what it does when you see new perspectives and just out of like what you're to disrupt what you're doing, but to be able to bring my son to also influence and to like I wouldn't even say influence, but to our whole goal is just again to identify what do they need and how we can help support that. It's not to go change or any of that. And I think that's
Right,
what
exactly.
coaching everything is about, just helping identify what do you need and how we can support that. And that's
That's
the
right.
number one goal. It's not
And
you're
certain
wrong,
tools,
you need
right?
to be
Implementing
fixed.
tools, right? No,
Yeah,
no, of course not. And
no one's wrong, no
it's
one needs to be
also
fixed.
it's the connection and it's the support and it's a continued support, really. And many people don't have that.
And it's closing the gap that we think we have between people. We are so similar to each other. We all just want to be loved and belong. And it's really how do we do that the best to our own abilities and how do we make those connections? And again, I'm just tired of the superficial connections. And so
Mhm.
my goal is how do we foster deeper conversations in a safe way that works for our busy schedules?
Mhm. Well, on that note, again, I want to thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Safe travels. Have a fabulous time. It'll be the event of a lifetime. So I will definitely speak with you when you get back. And I do appreciate you coming on with all that you have going on and all that you will be having happen, that you took the time to come on and speak to the audience. I do
So
appreciate it,
excited to
Michelle.
be here. And just love to leave your audience with one last tip, which I love to do is we all when we see someone, we always a lot of times will have that nice comment like, oh, I love their hat. I love what their kid's doing. And we keep those comments in our head. So I'd love for you to get some of those compliments out of your mouth and just give it to a stranger. You never know what conversation will make, or just that smile that it brings to someone else's
Mhm.
face. So I always love to end with that. And I hope you guys all have a
Well,
wonderful day.
thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. Take care. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.